blistering speeds. A robot building walls. AI helping a musician compose and play again. From cybersecurity tests to FPV drone pilots training like fighter aces. All this and more coming up on this episode of Tech It Out at these times.
On Inside South Asia this week, a deadly bomb attack near a railway station in Quetta. How Pakistan has lost its grip in Balochistan. Rising energy prices and sharp export declines. We take you to the highlands of Sri Lanka, where tea workers are hit hard by the Iran war.
Thank you so much. This is already...
And a win at Cannes Film Festival that's historic in many ways for Nepal. Watch all this and much more with me, Kripa, on Inside South Asia.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching WION World is One. I'm Jyotsna Kumar, and this is World DNA. Let's begin with the headlines. IAEA Chief Rafael Grossi voices concern over drone attack on Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant, warns such strikes are like, quote-unquote, playing with fire. Iran's Revolutionary Guards unveiled 27 Rajab naval attack craft during countrywide demonstrations supporting armed forces. The U.S. warns Iran it is more than capable of resuming its war as President Donald Trump says any peace deal must adhere to his red lines, including Tehran never being able to develop nuclear weapons. One dead, 8 others injured as a 5-story structure crumbles in Delhi's Mehroli. Search is on for the survivors. Venezuela's Edmundo Gonzalez Urrutia, the opposition candidate who was recognized by U.S. and others as the actual winner of the 2024 election against Nicolas Maduro, calls for a new vote, throws his support behind Nobel Peace Prize winner and opposition leader Maria Corina Machado. Meteor crashing towards Earth explodes over the northeastern U.S., setting off booms that echoed over the region with a blast equivalent to 300 tons of TNT. More than 400 detained in Paris after celebrations following PSG's second Champions League victory turned disorderly, with some fans setting fires and clashing with police across the French capital.
Protecting each other, even in grief, is one of the hardest and most important things we can do.
World Health Organization chief calls for unity as he visits Ebola outbreak epicenter in DR Congo. India will reduce export duties on petrol, diesel and jet fuel from June 1st. The revised rates are 1.5 rupees per litre for petrol, 13.5 rupees per litre for diesel and 9.5 rupees per litre for jet fuel. The rates are being revised on a fortnightly basis and are based on average international prices. And Russia has claimed to have seized 10 settlements and downed more than 2,600 Ukrainian drones in the past week. On the same day as Ukraine said it struck Russian military targets, including energy facilities and air defense systems. The Russian Defense Ministry says that it had carried out one large-scale strike and 5 cluster strikes targeting Ukrainian military enterprises, energy infrastructure, air bases and sites used for the assembly, storage and launch of drones. In response, Ukraine attacked and destroyed 2 Russian Tu-142 naval aircraft and an Iskander ballistic missile system. The head of Ukraine's unmanned systems forces said that it struck a military airfield in Taganrog, a port city on the Sea of Azov in Rostov Oblast. It also targeted a tanker and an oil depot in southern Russia, causing fires but no casualties. The Defense Intelligence Unit of Ukraine is preparing to launch more drones at what it says are military objectives deep inside Russia. A Ukrainian commander who heads one of the deep strike drone units said that this is a key opportunity to turn the tide in the war. Now, the commander, who goes by the call sign Vector, said that the drones are constantly being modified and that the amount of drone launches has gone up to 100 per night.
This is a key opportunity to turn the tide in the war. As we have seen, especially recently, this is the main trump card, the main card of Ukraine in our rebuff of this aggression. We understand not only these, but all the other drones that will be launched today, which are launched every night, have given us the opportunity for an asymmetric response to the horror that we have been receiving for the 5th year.
At the same time, Russia has warned that it intends to launch systematic strikes on targets in Kiev and warned foreigners and diplomats to leave. Parallel to this, the Russian military has intensified its aerial attacks, firing almost 90 missiles as well as hundreds of drones at Kiev last weekend. Ukraine's President Zelensky has said that Russia is preparing a major new attack and urged for air defense missiles, adding that a sufficient supply depends on U.S. Zelensky reiterated his call to allies for the supply of U.S. Patriot missiles, which can intercept the Russian ballistic missiles.
The prioritized Ukraine requirements list program should work. This applies to both the United States and Europe. We are accumulating funds from our European partners and other friends to purchase missiles, in particular for the Patriot, and a sufficient supply depends on America. We hope that Ukraine will be heard.
Zelensky also said that he spoke with the Romanian President Nicolae about the Russian drone attack on Romania, and that the two countries agreed to work together to strengthen air defenses.
I spoke with the President of Romania. A Russian drone struck a residential building in Romania during the previous night. People were injured. We wish them a speedy recovery. We agreed with President Nicolae that Ukraine supports Romania in this situation.
On the other hand, Russian President Vladimir Putin insisted that there was no evidence to blame his country for the drone crash in Romania. At least 2 people were injured in the first drone hit on a residential building as Bucharest called the incident a serious and irresponsible escalation and expelled a Russian diplomat in a first response. Moving across to West Asia, Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam has condemned what he called a dangerous escalation by Israel in southern Lebanon, calling for an immediate ceasefire and warning that military operations would not bring lasting security to the region. In a televised address, Salam accused Israel of pursuing a scorched earth policy through the destruction of towns and villages and the displacement of civilians.
Israel is no longer targeting only specific sites or areas. It is implementing a policy of total destruction of cities and towns and of all the essentials of life within them. It is also carrying out mass displacement that amounts to collective punishment against our peaceful civilians. These policies are condemned under all international norms, conventions, and laws.
The remarks come after Israeli forces issued fresh evacuation warnings for residents of several villages in southern Lebanon and expanded military operations deeper into Lebanese territory. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has said troops had crossed the Litani River and were targeting Hezbollah positions. Meanwhile, Hezbollah has claimed responsibility for rocket attacks on northern Israel and said its fighters had engaged Israeli troops near several locations in southern Lebanon. The latest developments follow landmark security talks between Israeli and Lebanese military delegations in Washington, with another round of U.S.-mediated negotiations expected next week. Despite a truce that officially took effect in April, both sides continue to accuse each other of violations while clashes and airstrikes persist across the border region. Lebanon's health ministry says more than 3,300 people have been killed since the conflict escalated in March, while thousands have been displaced, many seeking shelter in the southern city of Tyre as humanitarian conditions continue to worsen. All right, we have some breaking news just coming in. Iran's Revolutionary Guards have claimed that it has shot down a US MQ-1 drone. In a statement, the IRGC has stated that the drone entered Iranian territorial waters with the intention of conducting hostile operation, but was promptly detected and brought down by air defense missiles. This is coming in right now, where Iran's Revolutionary Guards have claimed that it has shot down a US MQ-1 drone. Now, RGC statement says that the drone had entered Iranian territorial waters with the intention of conducting hostile operation, but was promptly detected and brought down by air defense missiles. Now, the future of U.S. and Iran war is unknown, but a new report from the Center for Strategic and International Studies warns that the United States is confronting a deeper problem, and that is its own military readiness. The report argues that the conflict exposed critical shortages in missiles, air defense interceptors, and industrial capacity, raising questions, or serious questions, about America's ability to sustain a longer war elsewhere. The battlefield lessons from the Iran conflict are probably now triggering alarm bells in Washington. The latest report by CSI suggests that America's military performed effectively during the war, but at a heavy cost. According to the report, U.S. forces relied heavily on long-range precision weapons, including Tomahawk cruise missiles and Patriot and THAAD air defense interceptors. The concern, as the report flagged, is not how these weapons performed, it's how many were used. The report states that American long-range offensive munitions were already stretched before the Iran conflict. Now, after months of operations, those reserves have been depleted even further. CSI warns that replenishing some of these weapons is not a quick process. Certain interceptors and cruise missiles can take between 2 and 4 years to manufacture. Now, quoting the report, there are no quick fixes to refill empty bins. The report also points to another major vulnerability: Iran attacks targeted military facilities, civil and energy infrastructure, and shipping routes. CSI says those attacks expose weaknesses in base protection and point defense systems. The warning is clear: if Iran could challenge American defenses in West Asia, a larger adversary could exploit similar weakness elsewhere. The report notes that military readiness is not only about weapons, it is also about maintenance, logistics, and industrial production. The report argues that U.S. must now accelerate weapons production, strengthen air defenses, and rebuild in military inventories. The CSI's report concludes that the Iran conflict exposed long-standing weaknesses in America's defense industrial base and military stockpiles. The report suggests that the future deterrence depends not only on advanced technology, but on the ability to sustain a long conflict. For American planners, the lessons from the Iran war are only beginning. Now, China has called on the U.S. to meet each other halfway and maintain stable and healthy military relations, marking its first official response to U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth's address at the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore. And speaking at the forum, the head of the Chinese delegation said this year's speech reflected the outcomes of the Trump-Xi meeting and further shows stable U.S.-China relations is good for regional stability and global peace.
We also hope that China and the United States will meet each other halfway, implement the consensus of the heads of state, and promote the healthy, stable, and sustainable development of their military relations. That's my brief response to Hegseth's speech.
On Sunday, during his inaugural address, Hegseth had warned of Beijing's growing military ambitions in the Indo-Pacific, saying China's military buildup and expanding activities in the region have raised concerns among the U.S. and its allies. However, Hegseth emphasized that Washington does not want a confrontation with Beijing. Instead, it is seeking stable and respectful relations with China. Hegseth added that the U.S. would maintain channels of communication to reduce the risk of miscalculation.
Under President Trump's leadership, relations between the United States and China are better than they've been in many years. President Trump and this administration seek a stable peace, fair trade, and respectful relations with China.
Hegseth's comments were in a sharp contrast to his take at the forum last year when he had warned of rapidly developing threats from China, particularly its aggressive stance towards Taiwan. However, this year the meeting comes only about 2 weeks after Trump's visit to Beijing, with a focus more on injecting stability into China-U.S. ties. Interestingly, during his inaugural address, Hegseth did not mention Taiwan even once. However, later in a panel conversation, he assured that there was no change in Washington's stance on Taiwan, but the decision on future arms sales will rest with U.S. President Donald Trump.
Any decision about future Taiwan arms sales, as the president said, will rest with him and is the nature of that relationship. And certainly having been there for those meetings in Beijing, there's no change in our status there.
Comments are being seen as a sharp departure from U.S. policy on Taiwan. Arms sales to the democratic self-governing island has long been a core pillar of Taiwan-U.S. relations. However, during the Trump-Xi summit, Chinese President Xi Jinping had told Trump that the Taiwan issue is the most important one in China-U.S. relations. Days later, the U.S. had announced a pause on arms sales to Taiwan, citing the Iran war. Experts say Hegseth's softer tone on China reflects the broader shift in U.S. policy on maintaining stable relations with China. Now, in New York, school bus operators are facing mounting pressure as diesel costs surge, squeezing margins under fixed transportation contracts. With fuel prices up sharply since December and the school bus industry consuming more than 800 million gallons of diesel annually, operators warn that higher energy costs are becoming a growing challenge for student transportation services. Take a look at our next report for more on this. Rising fuel prices are putting pressure on school bus operators across New York. At a bus depot in Hempstead, drivers are paying increasingly higher prices to keep buses on the road. Private contractors, which serve around 85% of New York State school districts, say they are struggling to absorb the added cost because most transportation contracts are fixed and leave little room to pass on higher fuel expenses. Industry representatives say the financial strain has been building since winter and has intensified in recent months.
The contractor definitely eats the cost when fuels rise, and that's something no one's guessing that the prices will come lower than they were before this winter.
The surge in fuel costs comes amid disruptions to global oil supplies. The Iran conflict has affected the movement of roughly 1/5 of the world's oil, triggering a sharp rise in energy prices. The average diesel price paid by U.S. fleets has climbed 67% since December to $5.52 per gallon. For the nation's school bus industry, which consumes more than 800 million gallons of diesel every year, that translates into an estimated $1.8 billion increase in annual operating costs.
The school buses that are owned by school districts, it's costing them lots of money. I as a taxpayer in a district, and I'm looking at what it costs, and my particular district is shared between the district and ourselves. It's a great partnership, but it's hurting everybody.
The impact extends beyond fuel pumps. School bus operators say higher oil prices are also increasing the cost of vehicle parts, manufacturing materials, and transportation services. Yet, unlike many industries, school bus companies have limited flexibility to reduce operations.
And it's not just fuel, it's fuel, oil, and anything derived from fuel and oil, which are the plastics and the rubbers and things that go into making it and to transporting it. The trucking companies can raise their rate to deliver something, or someone can raise their parts. But when it comes to school transportation, we're locked into a price for at least that school year.
Operators say buses must continue running scheduled routes to ensure students get to and from school safely. With fuel and maintenance costs rising, contractors warn that the current pressure could become a long-term challenge for the school transportation sector. Business Bureau Report, WION World is One. All right, shifting focus to the world of sports. Paris Saint-Germain edged Arsenal 4-3 on penalties to clinch their second consecutive Champions League trophy. But the victory was marred by violent clashes in Paris as thousands of rowdy fans poured onto the streets. Moments after the PSG's victory, clashes broke out between police and supporters near the Parc des Princes stadium. Police officers responded with tear gas when fireworks were thrown at them. According to the French Interior Ministry, 416 people have been detained nationwide, including 280 who were apprehended in Paris. A group of supporters also stormed the Paris Ring Road, bringing traffic to a halt for a time and letting off flares. According to the police, 24 flares and about 100 fireworks were seized. 2 businesses were damaged while a police officer was injured. A bus shelter was also destroyed near the Champs-Élysées. Paris police have also made dozens of arrests and used tear gas near the Eiffel Tower, which was lit up in the colors of Paris Saint-Germain to commemorate the club's victory. In Budapest, PSG held their nerves and made a spirited comeback after Kai Havertz fired Arsenal into the lead of the 6th minute. It looked like the PSG would find no way through the meanest defense in Europe, but Ousmane Dembele leveled from the penalty spot in the 65th minute after a foul by Christian Mosquera. A scrappy period of extra time could not separate the sides, but PSG held their nerve in the shootout. Luis Enrique's side clinched the title when Arsenal defender Gabriel struck his penalty over the crossbar. And with this, PSG became the second club in the Champions League era to win the trophy in successive seasons after Real Madrid. PSG supporters sang songs outside the Puskas Arena as they reveled in PSG winning back-to-back European Cups.
It was an intense, incredible match, suspenseful right to the very end. In the end, we won what we thoroughly deserved because we dominated the game. We dominated the game. 80% possession. We had the best chances, and that's just pure joy. We did so much.
Celebrations also erupted in France as PSG supporters danced and cheered near Paris's famed Eiffel Tower and on the Champs-Élysées Avenue. Long dismissed as glamorous underachiever despite vast resources, PSG has now forged a dynasty under Luis Enrique, marrying attacking brilliance with resilience to establish themselves as the dominant force in European football. Well, time for some showbiz news. Stars Jennifer Lopez and Brett Goldstein premiered their new film titled Office Romance in Los Angeles. Goldstein, who also wrote the screenplay, revealed he had Jennifer Lopez in mind while writing the film. Lopez said that the role instantly connected with her because the character felt personal and authentic. In the film, she plays Jackie, the ambitious CEO of Air Cruise, whose strict no office romance rule is shaken up when a charming new lawyer enters the picture.
Great question. And I think it did give me license to be like, I know this. You somehow got inside my head and my skin when you wrote this. And I'm going to offer as much as I can to it because I actually know what this is. I understand who this person is. And it actually made it a really pleasant collaboration on set, with the script, with everything.
Blending romance, comedy, and workplace chaos, Office Romance marks Lopez's return to the rom-com space fans know her best for. The film also stars Brett Goldstein in a leading role alongside Lopez. With sparks flying both in and out of the boardroom, Office Romance is set to bring classic rom-com energy to audiences worldwide when it premieres on 5th of June.
It's my boss. She's dynamic. She's incredible.
And well, that's all on this broadcast of World DNA. Before we wrap up this bulletin, here's a quick look at the images drawing our attention from around the world. We'll leave you with that. Do stay tuned. News and updates will follow on the other side. You're watching WION The World.
South Korea is embracing AI in filmmaking. But what does it mean for its stories? Malayalam cinema is riding high on sequels. But what about its stars? Fjord scores a big win at Cannes, but will it dominate the Oscars? All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
The security checklist your phone needs. Drones moving at blistering speeds. A robot building walls. AI helping a musician compose and play again. From cybersecurity tests to FPV drone pilots training like fighter aces. All this and more coming up on this episode of Take It Out at these times.
On Inside South Asia this week, a deadly bomb attack near a railway station in Quetta. How Pakistan has lost its grip in Balochistan. Rising energy prices and sharp export declines. We take you to the highlands of Sri Lanka, where tea workers are hit hard by the Iran war.
Thank you so much. This is already...
And a win at Cannes Film Festival that's historic in many ways for Nepal. Watch all this and much more with me, Kripa, on Inside South Asia.